Welcome forward to star 30 of our reflections, and the three words we're going to be using to look again at a part of the Our Father prayer are poverty, loved, and patron of the dying, which again links in with Saint Joseph. So the part of the Our Father we'll be looking at today is the following: and forgive us our debts, as we also have forgiven our debtors. Or forgive us our trespasses, as we have forgiven those who trespass against us. And again, if you want to pause the video, give that some thought. But again, as I said yesterday with star 29, and I think previously as well, using this technique of the three words with the Our Father particularly, a prayer we're very familiar with, is offering up new insights and extracting new meaning from the prayer. And again, wouldn't say struggling, but there's certainly looking at that part of the Our Father prayer and those three words, trying to get them to speak together to draw out meaning is actually quite challenging, but very enriching at the same time. So again, I would encourage you to use this technique at home. The first thing that strikes me is this concept of you've got two things going on here. You've got forgive, the person who is forgiving, and actually the person that is forgiven. And also you've got God's role in that as well. So it's very rich. So I am forgiving other people, they're forgiving me, but also God is forgiving me. So it's that this triangle, if you like, this trinity of that, which reminds me of something else very, very rich in terms of, I suppose it's called it's something to do with this the trilogy of the liturgy or something along those lines. But it means that if I'm helping, I recognise Jesus in the person that I'm forgiving, and they recognise Jesus in me as the person who's forgiving them. So that's this quite interesting concept. I won't go back over that, but I'm going to be giving that some more thought. So in terms of poverty, that reminds me with star 29 yesterday about the concept of being detachment, and it's about but in this concept it's about poverty, maybe of debt. So hopefully I am poor in debt to other people, or if you like, I'm poor in not forgiving others their debt to me. So that's worth exploring a bit more, and therefore you get this concept of love, the loved, and this thing about if you forgive somebody, you're loving them, and if they accept your forgiveness, they're loving you. And again, you've got this trinity there at work, particularly if you recognise Jesus in the person you're loving, and they recognise Jesus in the person that's giving the love. So interesting, that's actually quite deep and profound. And this concept of patron of the dying with respect to this part of the Our Father, that's been quite enriching as well, thinking about that and trying to understand how I could link that in. But it's not wanting to die, and this is really quite serious. I suppose this is personal as well. I would not want to die without forgiving people that need to be forgiven by me. And I would not want to die without maybe people forgiving me for what I need to be forgiven for. And that's quite deep, very, very deep, in fact. So again, this concept of poverty of that, and it brings me back to this thing about anger. Resentment poisons us, and it prevents us from forgiving and loving other people. And actually, if someone you don't like, or you're angry against, or you've got resentment, you're resentful of them, and they offer you forgiveness, you may not want to take it. It's quite interesting that, and therefore a lot of people, their anger and resentment poisons them inside. So what we need to do is die to our own anger, resentment, and all those negative emotions. And we've talked about that a lot actually before. So we've got to starve that concept. We've got to starve the anger and resentment in ourselves. And if you like, you've got to let anger, resentment bleed itself to death. Isn't that interesting? Anyway, so we've got to detach ourselves, which is a word from yesterday, from anger and resentment, and that again links with Psalm 4. Psalm 4 seems to keep coming out in these reflections. So it's very much about sitting in silence when we're angry or disturbed, feeling resentment, anger, pondering on it, offering right sacrifice, which again could be prayer, and making the right decisions, making the right choices, and then acting on that while we trust in God. Anyway, I'll leave you with those thoughts, and God bless.